All right, hey boys and girls, we're gonna go through the events that get us to the Revolutionary War. Got my Americana shades on today, so let's go. So, Road to Revolution. This is really these 6 crazy years that get us up to the Revolution. So, to start here, a little bit of background. This should not be new. Okay, mercantilism. All European nations are doing this. All right, and remember, the whole point of this is make the mama rich. Okay, make the mother country rich. All right. Now we've seen this with the Navigation Acts that have been loosely enforced up until this point. Okay, so you can see this. North American colonies are supposed to only trade with the British Empire, but we know that doesn't happen because of smuggling, because it's just loosely enforced. So, how mercantilism works? Again, this apparently is a world where Africa and South America do not exist, but yes, not exactly the most accurate map. You have raw materials going to the mother country. They do their thing. They sell it back to the colonies. So mother country has a supplier and a buyer for their goods. Okay. Now with the Navigation Acts, we've talked about this briefly. All right. These are going to start in around the 1660s. We'll see these at least being passed. Okay, I think there's even one in the 1650s, but really they're not enforced. Okay, now what they say, and we've looked at this, you have enumerated goods that can only be traded with Great Britain, and some of these, like tobacco, the colonies only get $3 of profit to sell, but then when Great Britain manufactures it, they can sell it back for 8. Okay, other products like beaver pelts. Beaver pelts will start out at 12, and it's not dollars; it's the European currency. Okay, but then they can be sold back for 45. So we kind of talked about this already. The colonists are like, man, this is bogus. We're getting screwed on our own deal. Okay, and what's going to happen if you're going to sell other goods? They have to go through a British port, so the British can take their cut out of it. And because of this, you have widespread smuggling, okay? And these aren't enforced, all right? Now, because of the French and Indian War, or the 7 Years' War, things change, okay? So we talked about these briefly last week, and you have France is gone, okay? They lose most of their overseas empire. Okay, and a big thing is the size of the British land holdings are massive. Okay, and because of the war, they went into debt. And when they go into debt, there's only one way to get out of debt: spend less, which they can't do because they have all this new land, or tax. Okay, this taxing is going to snowball into the resentment that the colonists have towards the British. Okay, because they have more territory. They have to bring in more control, more military, more political control, okay, which costs money. Then you have to tax, which creates more resentment, all right? But at this time, Great Britain is the dominant world power. France, gone. Spain was allies with France during the war. They are not in the picture anymore, at least in the New World. And the British are feeling pretty good about themselves. And we talked about this last week, how after the French and Indian War, the colonists are like, yeah, it's pretty sweet to be British. And they want kind of share in the pie of winning. And when these taxes start coming in and some of these laws, like this one, okay, the Proclamation Line, which we've talked about, this isn't going to go over well, okay? And, the British colonists are saying, hey, man, we just fought and died for this territory, okay? And now you're going to tell us we can't go there? And I don't think so, okay? Now, similarly, like I said before, up until this point, stuff's been kind of loose. All right, you have this kind of mother country child relationship. This is the 11 o'clock curfew. Okay, you pass this, stuff's going to happen. Okay, And we talked about this last week. The colonists say, screw you. They just pass it. Now the British have to do something about it. Okay? And what they're going to look for, and we'll see the control, tightening of control, they're looking at taxes. Okay? And you have indirect and direct taxes. Okay? A direct tax, you go and buy a shirt, it costs $20. They add on the sales tax, 5.5%. You pay something new. All right? It's very clear that this tax is being paid. Now, indirect taxes, it's already built in. So, for example, when you go buy gasoline, you fill up your tank, you don't feel like you're paying taxes. But actually, those taxes are already accounted for in the price. Okay? So these are two types of taxes that the British are going to instill and enforce on the colonists. Okay? Now, the first revenue-based tax on the colonists is going to be the Sugar Act. Okay? So this is important. This is kind of when things start to change. All right? And what happens with this one, okay, you look at this from the British point of view, they're saying, okay, we just won this war. We need to protect these colonists. Well, we need to raise some money. Okay? And the sugar tax actually lowered the sugar tax. Yes, I'll say that again. It actually lowered the sugar tax. Well, the problem, and what the colonists are looking at, is it's actually going to be enforced. Okay? And the example I always use is kind of like internet sales tax. Yes, you are supposed to pay tax to the government on items you buy online, say Amazon. You're supposed to write a check, send it to the government, and then pay your fair share of taxes. Well, that tax is never collected. Okay? And Congress is talking about really starting to enforce that. And people, oh, this is crazy. I buy stuff on Amazon. Well, you were supposed to be paying those taxes the whole time. Okay? That's just like the sugar tax. All right? It was in the book. It was an 8 pounds tax. They lowered it to 3. Okay? But now they're going to enforce it, and colonists go crazy. All right? Now, the next large tax that we'll see, and the one that really drives people nuts, is the Stamp Act. Okay? Now, the Stamp Act, you basically, any printed materials, all right, you had to have an official government stamp from the British government. Okay? And you can see these things here. What sort of things are being taxed? Well, newspaper editors, yeah, you don't want to make them mad. They're the ones that are writing the press. Diplomas, anybody with a degree, which again, you don't want to make the powerful mad. And printed sermons. And remember who the most influential people in this day and time. You have sermons, preachers. Okay, so this does not go over well, to say lightly. All right, and you saw this. This was in our DBQ documents. The Skull and Crossbones put on. This is the Pennsylvania Journal, kind of saying they're killing our liberty. Okay, and they're taking away our rights, kind of as a silent protest. Now, in a more direct protest, you have groups like the Sons of Liberty. Okay, the Sons of Liberty are going to form to go against the Stamp Act, and they're kind of a pretty radical group. I mean, they're burning houses. The governor of Massachusetts, they're harassing tax collectors. All right, they're tarring and feathering people. Really, just causing hell as a kind of group that's saying, man, these guys, the British, are taking away our liberties. Okay, and we'll see them in the Boston Tea Party. They're going to be the masterminds behind that as well. Okay, founding members, you have the Give Me Liberty, the name of our book, or Give Me Death, Patrick Henry from Virginia. Samuel Adams, yes, that Samuel Adams. There's a brewery company today in Boston. These are the two main voices. And we'll see these guys, crying liberty throughout the Revolutionary period. Okay, they're tar and feathering, and we'll watch one of these in class. You think about this in elementary school, and it's, they're just pouring some sticky stuff, and it's kind of fun. No, this is boiling hot tar dumped on your body, and then feathers to humiliate you. You're getting second, third degree burns on your body. You got to rip these feathers. I mean, this is some nasty, humiliating stuff, and they're doing this to tax collectors. Okay, it's pretty crazy. Okay, now what's going to happen is they're going to form a more formal group. Okay, 9 out of 13 colonies form something called the Stamp Act Congress. And this is important, kind of like the Albany Plan of Union, where they're getting together. They're saying, hey, man, we can't do this alone. We got to join or die. We got to band our ideas together. Okay, so they come out and say only colonial assemblies have the right to tax. And we're starting to see this no taxation without representation battle cry being really put forth. And they're starting to organize. Again, you got 9 out of 13 not showing up. All right. And what happens is the Stamp Act will be repealed. And yeah, I mean, this is a win. This is a win for the colonists. Okay. And then 1770, you have in Boston, there's a heavy police presence because a lot of these revolutionary ideas are coming out of Boston. Because more police are coming in, you get more resentment, more police, more resentment. And what happens is some local youth are talking crap, throwing ice, throwing snowballs at these British soldiers. Someone fires in the crowd, the British first, and what happens is 5 colonists are going to be dead. Okay, we're going to look at this in class. Okay, and we'll come back to the kind of how the British portray it and how the colonists portray it. Okay, but this event in 1770 just makes things even worse. Okay, fast forward a few years, you have the Boston Tea Party. Okay, what happens with this? There's several taxes put by Parliament. Okay, that had various taxes: tea, lead, paint, and one of them is the Townshend Acts, which had a tax on tea. Okay, and they're going to keep this tax. But because the colonists have been boycotting British tea, these British companies have a stockpile of tea that they have to sell. So what's going to happen is they're going to pass something called the Tea Act. All right, that says, you know what, colonists, you're going to buy our tea, all right, and we're going to sell it to you for a cheaper price. So colonists, just chill. You're going to pay less money, but you have to pay our taxes. So from the British point of view, they're saying, listen, you help us out, buy this tea, but just pay a little bit of taxes. And the colonists are going to say, oh, no, you're not tricking us into paying this taxes. You've heard about this since elementary school. Sons of Liberty dress up as Mohawk Indians, go aboard, dump 10,000 pounds of silver worth of tea into the Boston Harbor. And now things are going to happen real quick. Now the British are looking at this and they're saying, this is where it hits the fans. And the Coercive Acts, and to coerce means to force someone, are passed. And in the colonies, they're called the Intolerable Acts. And these are really looked to punish Massachusetts. Massachusetts, the New England Patriots. Massachusetts is the hot button, ground zero of the Revolutionary War. And we'll see the Boston port is going to be shut down. Their economy is destroyed. Quartering Act. They need more troops. Well, you know what, Massachusetts? You're going to house these troops. Okay, we're going to shut down your government. Okay, Mayflower Compact, representative government, kind of a big deal in Massachusetts. Taking that away. All right, we're going to take away your court system. Okay, and we're going to give our Catholic neighbors in Quebec more rights. Okay, those French Catholics in Quebec, something that the British colonists have been striving for. We're going to give that to Quebec. All right, and we're going to take away your currency rights. So really punish the colonists in Massachusetts. Okay, the First Continental Congress is brought together. How are we going to deal with this? We get 12 out of 13 colonies there. Stupid Georgia doesn't show up. How are we going to deal with this? They go for a full-on boycott, and now things are rapidly heating up. And you have this shot heard around the world in Lexington and Concord, where you have the British coming to seize the militia and their weapons arsenal. And now shots are fired, you have deaths, you have battles, and now we are going to be